To find out what tangent of pi over 6 is, we need a right triangle, because sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, all these things are talking about right triangles. So let's go make one. Pi over 6, that's in radians. You can quickly convert it to its equivalent degrees measurement by cutting out the pi. So we've got 1 divided by 6 is what's left over when you cut out the pi, and then multiply that by 180. So this is a 30-degree triangle. Okay, and then in a previous video for finding these exact values, I said if you just memorize two triangles, you can get the rest of these by drawing them like what we're doing over here. Okay, there's the 30-60 triangle. And if you draw it in the unit circle, the hypotenuse is 1. And so square root of 3 over 2 is always opposite of 60. 1/2 is opposite of 30. So since this triangle we just found out was 30 degrees for a reference angle down here, that means what's opposite of it, opposite of 30 degrees, is 1/2. And then what's opposite of 60 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. And then 1 is the hypotenuse. Okay, so now we have those labeled. We can find out what tangent of pi over 6 is. We can find out what tangent of 30 degrees is. Tangent, by definition, is the opposite side of the angle divided by the adjacent side of the angle. So it's the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. Okay, so to make that happen, you just flip and multiply the second fraction, just like we normally would when dividing fractions. And so you're going to get 2 over 2 square roots of 3, or in other words, the 2's cross cancel. So this is okay, but usually we rationalize the denominator, which means we multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 3. That's effectively multiplying it by 1, but square root of 3 times square root of 3 makes 3. Okay, so that's why this is what they consider a cleaner answer, I guess. Okay, same thing for cosecant pi over 4, except we need the other triangle I was referencing. This one's even easier. Hypotenuse of 1. If you've got a 45-degree angle, then it's isosceles, so that means these two sides are both square root of 2 over 2 by the Pythagorean theorem. So here's 45 degrees. So this is 45. This is square root of 2 over 2. This is square root of 2 over 2. This is 1. And now we can do what cosecant says to do. Look, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So cosecant and sine always go together. So in other words, cosecant is the hypotenuse divided by the opposite. Or another way of thinking of it is, find out what sine is. Cosecant would just be flipping that result. Okay, so let's do it that way. Sine would be the opposite. Oops, hold on. Sine is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So sine is square root of 2 over 2. So that means cosecant is 2 over the square root of 2. Because I just flipped it, because cosecant's a reciprocal. Okay? But, again, we don't like square roots in the bottom, so we'd multiply the top and the bottom of this thing by square root of 2. Because that square root of 2 times square root of 2 makes 2 in the bottom. And look, these two cancel out nicely, so this is equal to just the square root of 2 is the easiest way of writing that. Cotangent pi over 3, you can convert pi over 3 to degrees. That's a 60-degree angle. And then remember, we always draw these with the right angle on the x-axis. Okay, I drew 60 degrees, and at the top of my terminal side of that angle, I made a right angle with the x-axis. We make it a hypotenuse of 1, and then square root of 3 over 2 is opposite of 60, according to those triangles we drew over there. So cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So if you can find out what tangent is, you just flip it for cotangent. So let's do it that way. Tangent of 60 degrees is the opposite divided by the adjacent. So it's the opposite divided by the adjacent. That's the opposite. That's the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. So I'd flip and multiply that second fraction. So when you do that, you're going to get square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. So the 2's cross cancel to give you square root of 3. That's tangent, though. Remember, we said we were going to do tangent, and to find cotangent, we just flip it. So cotangent would be 1 over the square root of 3. And oh, didn't we already do that above here? Okay, so tangent of pi over 6 was square root of 3 over 3. So the same thing with cotangent. Cotangent pi over 3 is going to be square root of 3 over 3. Okay, secant pi over 3, that's another 60-degree angle. And so what's opposite of 60 is always square root of 3 over 2. And then this is 1/2. This is a hypotenuse of 1. So we can do the secant ratio by first finding out what cosine is, because secant and cosine are reciprocals. So cosine of 60 degrees would be the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So cosine is 1/2. That means secant is going to be 2 over 1. In other words, secant pi over 3 is 2.